So Bitcoin's over here chilling at 61,000 for what seems like to be the month straight of being at this price. Today in this video, we're going to talk about the potential fifth wave on BTC and why I still believe that the top could come in before 2025, which would go against what most people think. All right, so if you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to go through a lot today, so make sure you're buckled up. I'll be back with a live stream tonight, guys, so make sure you guys are looking out for it, okay? So we've been talking about this for quite a bit. This is not something new that I'm going to talk about right now. This has been something that I've been looking at for quite a bit. Now, if you guys don't know what this is basically the Bitcoin bull market so far, right? We've seen the first wave, correction, second wave, correction, right? And I think over the course of the next few months, especially into Q4 of this year, we're going to see this fifth wave up on Bitcoin, which could potentially put in the top before 2025. All right, and we're going to go over why I think that could happen, why the 4-year cycle theory, though it's still playing out up until this point, there might be some flaws in it. So we'll check that out. But obviously, we've been going sideways for quite a bit, guys. If we just kind of look at how long that this sideways period from the top took until we broke those highs, this took 28 weeks in this second wave for us to break into a new high. Currently right now, from that top of that move, we are currently on 23 weeks. So I've kind of said this a couple times. August and September, I think, maybe could continue to be a little bit boring. We could need to chop for a few more weeks before we're able to get that move up. And typically in the halving year, you see October be very, very good, right? October, November, and December, Q4 especially, are really, really good. So September could still be kind of boring, but still looking for this fifth wave up on BTC, which could put in the highs. Now, this might go against what everyone kind of thinks right now, right? Volatility is drying up for Bitcoin. If you actually look at recession search terms, people are fearful right now. There's multiple indicators showing that people are very, very fearful. When the masses are searching for a recession, okay, as you guys see here, there's only been a few times that happened. Obviously, in June and July of 2022, that was the popular search term, right? You had Elon Musk saying that the US was going to go into a recession. You had a bunch of big talking heads saying that Bitcoin's going to go into a recession. And June and July of 2022 is when stock markets and Bitcoin actually found that, right, we started to form a bottom, okay? The retail masses are usually wrong, all right? If we actually look at the other time that happens, right, that was back at the bottom of the COVID crash when this spiked up. But at that point, right, the masses are searching for a recession, and at that point, it already happens, and the market finds a bottom in March, right, and starts to move up. Market starts to move up as people are searching for a recession, okay? So this is kind of like the downfall of too much info nowadays. People get very, very fearful. They search for info after the fact, okay? So people searching for recession like crazy. Will it be like the last two times, all right? Also, the crypto fear and greed index is in fear. So people are very, very fearful right now, right? There's no volume in the market. That's typical of this time, right? But you wouldn't expect that the market can move up right now, okay? So how does this all go together? Well, if we look at this, we're seeing global liquidity move up, right? So we're seeing more money come into markets or be available to be put into markets, all right? So usually this has a little bit of an effect. If you actually, we talked about this last video, but if you look at when this bottoms, global liquidity, that's typically when Bitcoin finds a bottom slightly afterwards. And when this moves up, Bitcoin moves up, right? When this finds a low, this finds a low, Bitcoin moves up when this moves up, all right? So here we are, global liquidity is moving back up. People are fearful of a recession. People are fearful of the crypto market, and we have more money coming into markets, okay? So you guys can do the math. If we actually look at this as well, this kind of goes into my theory of why we could see a top before 2025, right? Where many people, I think, are going to be waiting for that 2025 peak. I think we could top before then, and I think that would throw a lot of people off. Kind of like how the halving, right? A lot of people didn't think we could hit all-time high before the halving, and we ended up hitting all-time high before the halving, throwing a lot of people off, making a lot of people bearish, thinking that the cycle was going to extend out into 2025, thinking that we were not going to pump into the halving. Well, we actually went from 16K to 70K, hit all-time highs before the halving, the first time we've ever done that before. So here's kind of my thought process with this. If we just look at real quick where we are in the cycle, we're exactly where we should be. But we've talked about this a few times. If you look at every single cycle, we typically do see some type of local top in Q4 or January of the halving year or right after the halving year. Okay, you can see right here. Typically, we see Bitcoin have like a 30-40% correction in that time frame, and that could be where maybe Bitcoin has a cycle peak this time around. All right, considering Bitcoin is almost at all-time highs already. All right, if we look at this, here's what I'm looking at right now. All right, if we look at this, a lot of people look at Bitcoin as 4-year cycles. I think there's another way you could look at it. You could argue this is maybe Bitcoin's second cycle, okay? And there's some type of 6-year cycle going on, right? So what I took is this. If we take the bottom of November 2011 and put it up to the 2017 peak, okay? What if this was just one big cycle, right? One big cycle. And I'll show you guys why that might be. And we just put it to the bottom of the bear market where 2018 was maybe the start of the second cycle. That would put the peak coming in. Let me just make this accurate. There we go. That would put the peak coming in right at the end of 2024 and not 2025. Now, why could I think this could be? Well, if we actually look at this cycle, you'll notice that there was this sort of double peak, right? So we had a big first explosive move up. We peaked once. This doesn't look like a huge pullback, but this was about a 80% pullback. So in the middle of the bull, we had an 80% pullback. I would consider that just a bear market, right? And then boom, we had a second cycle peak. Well, if you look over here back in 2021, we had a kind of a similar thing, right? We had a first peak. Bitcoin in the middle of the bull pulled back 56% and then went on to make a second peak, right? So this was kind of like the first, what people consider the first top of each bull. I would consider that just to be the middle of a cycle. I don't know if that was even a new cycle. I consider that maybe just being a new, the top of the cycle. And then basically we went into a bear, and then this was just a consistent, explosive move up, right? Until we hit the actual cycle peak. And that's where I think we are right now, right? We had sort of this double top, considering we had like a double peak here, and we could just be going up to make, just like here, that cycle top into 25. Now, I don't know how high it's going to go, guys. I'm not going to make some prediction on the price, right? We obviously have a couple price targets where it could be, but this kind of goes back to our original chart where I'm looking for this fifth wave up. Now, we have some targets, right? These are Fibonacci levels. 88,000 is the top to the bottom of this, right? And then we just take the bull market high to the bear market low. These are all Fibonacci levels to the upside where we can look at some targets. I don't know how high Bitcoin's going to go on this. I'm not going to make any predictions. I think it's just smart to take profits on the way up and not try to make any predictions. As you guys know, like last cycle, a lot of times we tried to make predictions and that didn't work out too well. So I think that the best strategy, and what you notice that the whales do, is they just take profits on the way up, right? So this is how I'm looking at the market, right? Very clear 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave, okay? Very clear Elliott wave to the upside, all right? With potentially a cycle top before 2025, or maybe January 2025. It could extend into January. We've seen that a few times. Considering the fact, once again, that Bitcoin's exactly where it should be compared to previous cycle lows, global liquidity is moving up. You have retail Googling recession. Crypto fear and greed index, we hit extreme fear, and we're still in fear at this point. And like we talked about yesterday, the volatility is just absolutely gone in the markets. All right. So this is kind of my thought process going into Q4. Like you guys can check out my previous videos. I've said that August and September could maybe continue to be boring. September is typically not a good month for Bitcoin, so just keep that in mind, guys. But October, November, and December, especially in halving years, are very, very, very good typically. Okay. So just have that in mind. And I just wanted to put my thought processes out there and why I think this could be. It mainly has to do with the beautiful Elliott wave here. It mainly has to do with this potentially being a 6-year cycle and not a 4-year cycle, considering the similarities that we are doing to the 2017 cycle in this current market. And a lot of the macro factors, right? I'm a big believer in follow the charts, don't listen to the macro news. And I know a lot of people will come on here and we'll discuss it real quick but Jordan, what if Trump wins? What we're going to pump into 2025? Jordan, we're getting, rate cuts. What if we pump into 2025? I think a lot of these news events are fugazi, guys. It's a lot to distract you. Think about all the bad things that have happened in the world over the past year, but yet stock markets continue to go up. Bitcoin's still at 60,000. Think of all the things that were to fear you out of the markets, and the markets are still doing extremely well. I think news events are to distract you, and I'm sure what's going to happen is if we do get this fifth wave to the upside, there's going to be a lot of good news, man. There's going to be people talking about how bullish the rate cuts are, people talking about how Trump's going to win and Bitcoin's going to go to the moon, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good news, just like in 2021, right? When we had this explosive last rally to the upside, you guys know there was a lot of good news in the crypto market when we got up here, right? And then obviously at the bottom, there's a lot of bad news, right? So I'm sure when this comes, there's going to be a lot of good news as we get up here, okay? There's going to be a lot of good press. The macro is going to look unbelievable. But just be cautious when that happens, all right? So this is my thought process. Rate cuts, I know everyone's going to talk about rate cuts. Remember, there's been times in the past where rate cuts have marked tops. Everyone's going to talk about Trump winning. Remember, it's not a guarantee. And I'm not going to talk too much about the macro stuff, but just stick to the charts. This is how I'm looking at it. August to September could continue to be boring. They may not. And if they don't, that's awesome. But just remember, Q4 is typically very, very good for BTC. And that's when I'm really expecting the fifth wave is October, November, and December, which could potentially put in that cycle top for BTC. All right. So I'll be live tonight, guys. We'll talk about more about this tonight. But if you enjoyed today's video, smack that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.